So, at the beginning of this movie, we are introduced to a man named Marco, who arrives to meet a Russian gangster. As soon as he arrives, he hands over a bag full of cash to the gangster and asks him, "Where is my stuff?" The gangster gives him a car key and tells him that his stuff is in the car trunk. Marco takes the key and leaves, but before departing, he destroys the entire place where he had come to meet the gangster. In the trunk of the car, Marco finds a suitcase. After picking it up, the scene cuts, and we are introduced to the main character, then is shown with his wife, and they have just found out that she is pregnant. This news makes them extremely happy. It's also Christmas, and the couple works together at an airport. Due to it being Christmas, the airport is expected to be quite busy. Since then works in the security sector, he attends a briefing about how to handle the day's operations. Afterward, then approaches his boss and requests a promotion, saying he no longer wants to check boarding passes and instead wants to scan luggage. Although his boss initially refuses, explaining that making any changes on such a busy day wouldn't be wise, Dan's friend Jason helps him by asking the boss to swap their duties. This allows them to finally get the job of scanning luggage. The scene then cuts to outside the airport, where we see an RV inside. A man named Riley has kidnapped someone and is busy hacking into the airport's surveillance cameras within minutes. It is revealed that this same man has sent someone to Jason's house to kidnap his family, aiming to blackmail Jason. Riley, monitoring the airport's original CCTV footage on his phone, is shocked to find that instead of Jason in the luggage scanning position, unaware of the duty swap. It becomes clear that these people are criminals planning something big. Initially, they planned to blackmail Jason by holding his family hostage, but now they needed to track down Dan's family. Riley quickly pulls up Dan's complete biodata and discovers that he only has his pregnant wife as his family. He sends his men to search Dan's house, where they find a report confirming that Dan's wife is pregnant. They decide to use this information to their advantage, making her pregnancy a vulnerability for Dan. At the airport, a stranger delivers an item to Dan, who is confused because the item does not belong to him. Then, he receives a text message instructing him to put on an earpiece. Although surprised, then puts on the earpiece, and a man begins speaking to him. The man tells them that if he values his and his wife's life, he must follow instructions without question. Dan, confused, asks what the man wants. The man explains that in a little while, someone wearing a red hat will bring a suitcase to him, then is to scan the suitcase and pass it through quietly without saying a word. If he does this, both his and his wife's lives will be spared. The man further warns them that his every move is being watched, and that they know where his wife is at that moment. This information was provided by Riley, who had thoroughly researched Dan. When then tries to alert the police by discreetly making a call, the man catches on and warns him to disconnect the call immediately. The man tells them that one of his associates is currently aiming a rifle at his wife's head and that any mistake could cost her life. Frightened, then complies and locks his phone in a locker as instructed by the man. When then nervously asks if the man is a terrorist, the man denies it, claiming he's only doing a job assigned to him. Dan, still uneasy, questions what's inside the suitcase, but the man insists that Dan doesn't need to know and warns him to keep quiet about it. He also tells them that if the suitcase doesn't make it to the plane or if anyone tries to open it, both Dan and his wife will be killed. Dan, trying to remain calm, asks what they would have done if Jason had been on duty instead of him. The man explains that Jason would have complied as well because his family had been kidnapped, then realizes these criminals have come with meticulous planning. Despite the threats, then tries to outsmart them by writing a message on his smartwatch and attempting to alert the authorities. However, Riley, watching everything through the hacked cameras, notices this and informs the man communicating with Dan. The man warns Dan again, stating that he is running out of chances and orders him to lock his smartwatch in the locker as well, then reluctantly complies, realizing that sitting idly won't help. The scene cuts to police officer Elena, who is investigating the location where Marco met the Russian gangster and later destroyed the place. During the investigation, she finds the Russian gangster's body and a watch near it, which contains a burnt recording chip. Elena hands the chip over to the forensic department, requesting any recoverable data. Although they manage to retrieve some data, the audio is heavily degraded due to the damage. Back at the airport, the man speaking to them tells him that his associate will arrive shortly with the suitcase, and until then, they should talk. Then, trying to locate the man, listens carefully to the sounds around him, and deduces the man's approximate location inside the airport. Seizing an opportunity, then writes an invisible message on a boarding pass and discreetly hands it to a passenger heading toward the police. However, Riley notices this through the cameras and informs the man. The man, realizing what Then has done, confronts the passenger and injects them with a lethal substance, killing them instantly. When Then returns to his station, he notices that the man is no longer sitting nearby. Searching the crowd, Then spots him, and we see that the man is Marco, the same individual who killed the Russian gangster at the start of the movie. Then approaches Marco, who reads the message on the boarding pass and warns him not to make any more mistakes. Marco threatens to kill Dan's wife if he disobeys again, making it clear that this is not an empty threat but a promise. Dan, fearing for his wife's safety, returns to his scanner. However, due to a recent security scare involving the sudden death of the passenger, Jason has been reassigned to the scanner. When Marco learns about this, he orders Dan to remove Jason and take back the position. Then tries convincing his boss, but the boss refuses, citing the heightened security situation. Determined, Dan spikes Jason's coffee with alcohol and reports it to the boss. When the boss discovers the spiked coffee, he immediately suspends Jason, despite Jason's protest of innocence. The scene cuts back to Elena, who, after analyzing the recovered recording, identifies a highly dangerous poison capable of causing widespread devastation. Meanwhile, at the airport, Dan is back at the scanner, and Marco's associate arrives with the suitcase. Scanning the suitcase, Dan realizes it contains a highly dangerous weapon. Though unaware of its full capabilities, he deduces that it could destroy the entire plane. The weapon turns out to contain the same poison that Elena is investigating. Stressed, Dan starts feeling sick and vomits in the restroom. Marco approaches him there and threatens him again, warning him not to try anything clever. Dan pleads with Marco, pointing out that the plane has 2,000 passengers aboard. Marco coldly replies that if the weapon doesn't make it onto the plane, he will detonate it at the airport, potentially killing 60,000 people instead. Marco gives Dan a choice: save 2,000 people or 60,000. Then, desperate, asks Marco why he wants to kill so many people. Marco responds that he doesn't want to kill anyone. He's just doing his job and demands to be allowed to finish it. The scene shifts back to Thun, who was informed by a colleague that someone named Dan had called the police from the airport. Although the call was received, Dan did not say anything. Shortly after, a police officer at the airport suddenly died, indicating that something was definitely wrong. Alana was still on her way to the airport, so she sent another task force ahead to secure the situation. Upon arrival, they shut down all the security lines. Due to the security shutdown, Dan's boss gathered his team, and all suspected individuals were thoroughly checked. Then quickly devised a plan and used his boss's scanner to add the name of Marco's associate, whose bag he had already scanned earlier. After doing this, he stepped outside. When Marco noticed the police taking his associate to another room, he questioned them about what was happening. Instead of answering, Dan simply said, "I'm sorry, I can't help you anymore." He then removed his earpiece and immediately went to his wife. He wanted to protect her but was horrified to see a laser pointer aimed at her head, indicating that someone had a gun trained on her. Realizing that any wrong move would cost his wife her life, Dan quietly returned to the bathroom, now in a panic. Marco followed him and started attacking him. To defend himself, Dan drew his electric gun and pointed it at Marco. Marco, however, taunted him, saying, "You never learn. You've made so many mistakes, and now you'll pay for them." With that, Marco activated the bomb inside the bag and warned that instead of killing just 2,000 people, it would now take 60,000 lives. He then told them to take the suitcase to the plane's cargo hold, promising to guide him on how to deactivate the bomb. Rushing to the security room, Dan saw the bag being checked. He pointed his gun at his boss, hesitant to let him interfere. At that moment, another man grabbed a pin and stabbed Dan's boss in the neck, killing him. Enraged, Dan grabbed the man and demanded to know why he had killed his boss. The man confessed that his brother had been kidnapped by Marco's people, who had threatened to kill him if he didn't comply. Dan then contacted Marco to learn how to deactivate the bomb. Following Marco's instructions, he successfully disarmed the bomb just moments before it was set to explode. Meanwhile, Alana was rushing to the airport with a federal agent. She received a call from one of her agents, who informed her that the federal agent accompanying her was an imposter, The real agent had just arrived at the police station. Shocked, Alana pulled her gun on the fake agent, who then accelerated the car in an attempt to cause an accident. The imposter succeeded, and the crash severely injured them both. Even after the crash, the imposter tried to strangle Alana, but she managed to break free and shot him with her gun before escaping. Back at the airport, then was taking the suitcase toward the plane's cargo hold as instructed by Marco. Marco contacted his associate, who was accompanying Than, and ordered him to kill Than. The man pointed a gun at Than from behind, but then noticed this in a nearby mirror. Acting swiftly, he turned the tables and overpowered the man. The two fought fiercely, with the man repeatedly trying to shoot Than. During the struggle, the gun misfired, and the man accidentally shot himself, dying on the spot. Taking advantage of the moment, then grabbed the man's phone and tried to call his wife, but she didn't answer as she was busy. He then called a friend, informing him that his wife's life was in danger. The friend relayed the message to his wife, who began frantically calling Than, but his phone was locked away. Meanwhile, Alana had arrived at the airport and immediately sealed off the area. Marco had already boarded the plane and, upon arrival, shot Than, despite being injured, then managed to keep moving as the bullet had only grazed him. Marco offered to let Than go if he returned the suitcase, then pretended to comply, handing over the suitcase calmly, but before leaving, he whispered Marco's description to Alana, then hurried to rescue his wife, who was being pursued in the parking area by Riley, another one of Marco's men. Riley had hacked everyone's phones and learned that Than had revealed the truth to his wife. Just as Riley was about to kill her, Than appeared. Riley raised his gun to shoot, but before he could fire, a gunshot was heard, and Riley fell. The shooter turned out to be the brother of the man who had died while carrying the suitcase. Riley had held the man hostage, forcing his cooperation, then revealed the truth. The man's brother had sacrificed his life to save him. Devastated, the man broke down. There was still one final challenge. Marco had to be stopped before the plane took off. However, by the time Than reached the plane, Marco was already aboard. Fortunately, Than had placed a tracking sticker on Marco's suitcase. When the suitcase was scanned, it revealed Marco's location on the plane. Then contacted his wife, instructing her to go to the airline department and ensure the plane was not stopped from taking off. He warned that if the plane didn't take off, Marco would detonate the bomb on the spot, then assured her he could defuse the bomb on board, as he had done before. As the plane took off, then entered the cargo hold and opened the suitcase to deactivate the bomb. Marco, alerted to his presence, arrived and shot at Than, hitting him in the leg. Marco opened the suitcase to retrieve the bomb but found the chemical agent missing, then revealed that he had taken it. The commotion alerted the pilot, who turned the plane back toward the airport. In a final act of cleverness, then shoved Marco into a freezer and threw the chemical inside before sealing it shut. The chemical reacted immediately, freezing Marco's blood and killing him within minutes. With the mission complete, then saved thousands of lives. The plane landed safely back at the airport, where police and Alana were waiting. Then was briefly detained, but was released after Alana vouched for him, revealing that he had saved everyone. In the end, then reunited with his wife. It was revealed that Marco had orchestrated everything to assassinate a Russian officer. However, the lives of thousands were spared, and everyone was finally able to celebrate Christmas in peace. The story ended here.